Certainly we're happy to be here another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here live at the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the village of Harlem. And for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York. And of course, we'll be on in the next 6-7 minutes nationally on Impact Television. We're happy to be with you another Saturday morning where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hart, and our Northeast Regional Director, Minister Kirsten John Ford. Certainly, as we celebrate my birthday today, we celebrate all of you that have been part of my life and part of our work. And this Wednesday, we're going to be studying that work. I heard Scott Stringer talking about that at Columbia University, starting 9 sharp. Many of you have signed up. You that have not should sign up. There are going to be workshops on what has been the impact. At 13 years old, Jesse Jackson appointed me youth director of Dr. King's economic arm in New York, Operation Breadbasket. Tuesday, I was 63, so for 50 years, I've held a position in the movement. And we're going to talk about how that movement went from south to north, and I was a part of that. What did it mean? How we had to negotiate different things in the north. Dr. King didn't face hip-hop and rap in the south. Dr. King didn't have contemporaries as I did. My contemporaries were Spike Lee and Russell Simmons. So we're going to look at all that. Reverend Jackson will be here. Joy Reid and Angela Rye from CNN. Errol Lewis is hosting one of the panels, and on and on. So I want everybody to be there. Pass the cake and pass the candles. What does all of this mean? When you see and hear Senator Benjamin talking about preparing the next generation, part of the next generation is they need to understand what it is they inherited. See, I keep hearing people talk about pass the mantle. If you don't know what the mantle is, it would be a sin to pass the mantle to somebody that don't know what the mantle is. Hello? You don't pass the baton to somebody that's going to lead the parade off the track of the parade route. So we need to get clear on what this is. I always saw my work as a continuation of the social justice church-based movement. That's what I came out of. Dr. King's organization, Jesse's organization. And people that are not in line with that is not in line with me passing them anything but a flyer to where they can go to something that they need to be with. Just like I'm getting ready to bring on Senator Stewart. If you're not trying to elect Democrats, then you don't belong in her caucus. You know, some folk get this stuff mixed up. You know, I'm young, so I'm next. No, you're young what? If you're a young Republican, you don't belong with Stewart. If you are not about social justice in a King way, then man ain't for you. I don't care how young you are. Hello? I don't run a maternity ward, I run a civil rights organization. And I think that's why we go in there to deal all day with people need to understand what this means. I was in a meeting the other night as we were preparing, Isabel and others were preparing the march, and I was talking to some young folk after I left them, and God said to me that I understand that y'all are having a ministers march, and we ended up having over 3,000 ministers and did a good job. And they said to me, Controller DeNapoli said, well, you know, the Atheist Society has been in touch with Isabel. I said, yeah. Said, because, you know, we've got to have it understood that atheists want social justice too. I said, good. I said, but you got to understand, I'm not atheist. See, I think a lot of us give up too much ground and are ashamed of what we are. I am a Bible-thumping Baptist that believes in what I believe. And if I got to apologize for what I believe to work with you, that is not coalition, that's co-option. I ain't got no problem with what you believe. I believe in women's right to choose. I believe in same-sex marriage, all of that. Because people had a right to disagree with the ethos of my church, but don't expect me not to believe in what I believe. And there's a difference between me fighting for your freedom and me agreeing with everything you say. Like I remember years ago when Hakeem was a little boy, they used to argue about my hairstyle. Like somebody got the right to decide how I want to do my hair in the morning. I mean, what kind of insecure folk are you that you got to ask somebody how to style your hair? Reverend, we need to talk about your hair. And it was usually somebody bald that wanted to talk about it. I wasn't picking at you, Dominic Carter. Let me bring on, as we continue some of the birthday stuff, then I want to get into this whole bigoted, biased reaction that the president showed in his trip to Puerto Rico. I think that we must really rally around Puerto Rico. I'm so proud of our Congressman Espaillat. Congressman Espaillat and what he has done around that issue, and Idanis and our speaker, Melissa Viverito, is there. She was going to be with us today. She's in Puerto Rico. But I'll talk about that when I come back up, but I think it's important. One of the things that I couldn't figure out, I called some of the young people in there that are good with technology. I couldn't figure out how 90% of the island is without power. Trump said he was going down there to visit the island. He must have went to the only part that was not that bad, because everybody that he was in the room with was taking cell phone pictures. So how did they charge the batteries on their smartphone unless he wasn't in the part of the island that didn't have power? Look at the footage. Everybody just snap. I said, well, wait a minute now. I got a smartphone, and you got to charge a smartphone. If there ain't no power, these must not be the folk in trouble. So they call that a staged act. You got you a bunch of folks who didn't have no power problem, didn't have no other problem, got it in there, and then you gonna get up there and start throwing paper towels at him, like you Steph Curry trying to throw a three-pointer in a basketball game. Remind me of going to the zoo throwing peanuts at animals. That's how he treated them. But I'll get to that later. Let us welcome our Impact Television family has joined us. Give them a hand. Watching us all over the nation. We're live on Impact TV as we continue this, our birthday celebration. And again, let me announce for you that want to come to the study at Columbia on this Wednesday, 9 o'clock sharp. Get to 8:30 so you can be seated and name checked off. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, or call the toll-free number 1-877-626-4651. And then on Thursday night is National Action Network's annual Triumph Awards at Lincoln Center. We're honoring this year the legend herself, Valerie Simpson of Ashford and Simpson, actress Cynthia Nixon, Dr. Ian Smith. Now, both events, both occasions are free, but you have to pre-register. And this way we have a seat for you all. Now, let me say, as I bring on some more who will make statements on my birthday, and then for the Impact audience, I will be back giving our message of the week. I'm leaving this afternoon. I'm going to Jacksonville, Florida, to speak for the Alzheimer's organization. And then I'll be preaching in the morning, doing Politics Nation, and then from Jacksonville live on MSNBC. And then I'm preaching at Bethel Baptist Church, the Bishop Rudy McKissick, who's on our national board. So Jacksonville, I will be there this evening and tomorrow. Politics Nation on tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, MSNBC. I'll be live from there. Among my guests will be Congressman John Lewis, as well as others. Congressman Gutierrez. Reverend Jackson will be on to announce the Columbia study on next Wednesday. So we got a lot to do. And what I don't understand, Senator Stewart, all these young folk, I see Senator Benjamin up under you talking about next generation, and Kirsten and them talking about me. I went last week in 4 days from Dublin, from New York to Dublin, Ireland, from Dublin to Durban, South Africa, and back Friday to do my shows on 4 days. And all of the young folk with me, including my daughters, is still trying to overcome jet lag. I've been to Boston this week on my way to Florida. They still talking about I can't get my time right. Talking about Pastor Mantle, they be asleep. The man will be laying on a pillow. I remember when Kirsten first started traveling with me. Kirsten worked his way up in the organization. So for a while, he was my traveling assistant. And I had to speak in the Bahamas. And they were giving me a big award, and I was speaking, and they put me in a big hotel. I think it was the Cove, and they gave me a corner suite with a wraparound balcony, the government. And I said to Kirsten, I said, come here. He said, yes, sir. I said, walk out in the balcony. Balcony went all the way around the room. I said, you like this? He said, yeah. I said, you see the beach? He said, yeah, it's beautiful. Sandy beach. I never seen a beach like that before. This is beautiful. I said, you looking at it? He said, yeah. I said, that's as close you're going to get. Because as soon as I speak, we headed back to the airport. He cried all night long. This requires work. I meet people that want to get your awards, want to get your time on TV, want to get your time on radio, but they don't ever say to me, I want to get involved in doing the work. And that is what we look for. Who wants to do the work? Nothing to give you an award for if you ain't done nothing. Nothing to put you on TV for if you got nothing to say. And one of the things, when I was 13 and started in this movement, I joined to do the work. Didn't nobody know who I was. I worked. You earn your reputation by working. And one of the things that I feel that this Facebook social media generation must not do is build a value on how many likes you got on social media than rather how much work you've done that you're never going to get credit for. That's why I talk to church folk, not for an impact. It's an inspirational station. The Bible talks about the harvest is right, but the laborers are few. Don't tell me how much you go to church. Tell me what you do when you leave church and what you do. You go to church to get energized and inspired to go out and do the work. The work ain't going to church. You ain't going to heaven for perfect attendance in church. You go to heaven for doing some work. still Stephen Marshall. Stephen travel around with me. We go to some churches, folk before they call the order service, just jumping, shouting, doing somersaults in the air. And Stephen thought they had more Holy Ghost than us. I told Stephen, church is like a gas station. You come in to get refilled, so you can go out and help people, encourage people to turn around. There's a gas station. I said, you see these folk that's carrying on, they ain't got more Holy Ghost than us. They got a lot of backed up gas they ain't never run out. If you do some work all week, if you help somebody, if you stand up for somebody, if you encourage and turn somebody around, you'll need a refill next Sunday because you run some gas out. You that are in need, there are many that have problems, community problems, and some personal problems just need prayer. You can call right now. We have our activists and our prayer warriors at the hotline at 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651. You that want to just say, give Rev Mal a happy birthday from me, you can do that, 1-877-626-4651. I want to thank President Bill Clinton, sent me a note, President Obama, and others. I want them to hear from the President of the Borough of Manhattan, who is in the house, and is a frequent person in the house. Let us hear from Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer.
Thank you very much. Birthdays, I don't know. I don't like them, but I'm glad you do. I know David Dinkins always says, Gail, what's the alternative? So I want you to be around for a very long time, Reverend Al. And I say, in 2017, having been to maybe, just like all my colleagues, I don't know, 400 rallies against that man in the White House since last November, having been to one just last week on trans and immigration and anti-Muslim and women and justice, the list is endless, and all of you have been there too. The reason that it's important to be here today to celebrate the birthday, but to celebrate all of you, is if Nan wasn't here, it would be worse. The folks in this room for years and years have been in the trenches dealing with all the issues that man in the White House talk about work. He's always on the golf course. That is not work. And so we need to be here more than ever. And that's why this birthday is so important. It celebrates not only an individual, but it celebrates a commitment to all the work that the Reverend was talking about. And that's why I'm here. I am about work, just like all my colleagues who are sitting up here today, but we're all about work that's going to change people's lives for the better. I want to thank Dawn Jones. I know she's been thanked before, but she, like me and all of us, cares about that issue of affordable housing. There's nothing more important in our city than trying to provide it. We need to do a better job, and I appreciate once again this particular House of Justice for understanding the importance of how to really do affordable housing for the people who need it. Thank you very much. Happy birthday. Many more. Just because I don't like them doesn't mean everybody else shouldn't celebrate this great man. Thank you very much.
Borough President of Manhattan, Gail Brewer. Let me also say, and you know, Nan is going to be in March 26 years old. And one of the things that 27 years old, that's right. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is I see Dominic Carter, my friend who's here, is that I remember that when we started Nan and Dominic was covering it, Dominic was the one in that 1990 when Yusef Hawkins was killed. And he was at the home of the parents, and all the reporters were outside. And he asked the father, who did he want to come and speak for him? And if he could choose any people. And he said that, well, I'd want Al Sharpton or Minister Farrakhan. And Dominic said, if I gave you Sharpton's number, can I get the first interview. You know, Dominic always gonna get his thing. And he gave my number. And it was in the midst of Bensonhurst and me being stabbed, leading those marches, that I founded National Action Network. And I say that, Attorney Michael Hardy was the incorporating attorney, one of the guys that signed to incorporate National Action Network. People talk about I was one of the founding members. Well, just check the incorporation paper. Was the sergeant in the police department, was one of our incorporators, who is now the borough president of Brooklyn, Eric Adams, was a founding member there. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that when I look at Dominic and I look at a lot of those days, you had a lot of groups that did not last 25 years. If I can tell you every issue in the last quarter century that's come and gone. And I'm most proud we've been able to stabilize NAN, and every Saturday morning the community could come on the radio and be heard for the last 26 years. Not a Saturday have we missed. And that is important to do. And one of those young folk that grew and was a member of NAN, but was always focused and knew what he wanted to do and wanted to do it for the community. It was never about him, but it was about us. And he saw his role in doing that. And we're proud of him. He has stood strong and grown in wisdom and in strength and respect. And he tells everybody he's a member of NAN. When I go to Washington, I am always proud to hear people talk about this young statesman who has come out of my home borough of Brooklyn, New York, NAN member, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries.
No justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it? I think Adriano and I are going to have to take that to the floor of the House of Representatives. But I'm proud to be a card-carrying member of the National Action Network. And I'm just here today as we celebrate the birthday of the Reverend Al Sharpton to publicly thank him for his friendship and for his leadership, for his guidance, and for his advice. He's done so much for so many over such a significant period of time. We know that James Brown, Al Sharpton's mentor, was known as the hardest working man in show business. I'm thankful on today that Reverend Al Sharpton continues to be the hardest working man in the people's business. We know that when Al Sharpton started out, he used to wear tracksuits. In fact, I think I want to start a petition down in Washington. One of them tracksuits need to be in the Museum of African American History. That's an artifact of the movement. You know, Al Sharpton, he started out wearing tracksuits. Now he wears business suits. But I'm glad on today that even though the outfit has changed, the mission remains the same. No justice, no peace. I'm thankful on today for longevity. When Al Sharpton first started out, he was the boy preacher from Brooklyn. And when he started out as the boy preacher from Brooklyn, John Lindsay was mayor. And then Abe Beam was mayor. And then Ed Koch was mayor. And then David Dinkins, thankfully, was mayor. And then, God help us, Rudolph Giuliani was mayor. And then Michael Bloomberg was mayor. For one reason or the other, they're all gone, but I'm thankful for longevity because Al Sharpton is still standing. And we need him now. We need him now more than ever because these are challenging times. Rough times, as Adriano knows, down in Washington, D.C. Someone said to me the other day, they said, Congressman, do you miss Barack Obama? I said I will always miss the great Barack Obama. America is a better place today because Barack Obama spent 8 years in the White House with Michelle, Sasha, Malia, and Grandma. We will always miss the great Barack Obama, but I gotta keep it real. This president right now, he's so out of control, Donald Trump. I'm starting to miss George W. Bush as well. President, out of control. I'm almost out of your way. A reality show host in the White House, masquerading as president of the United States of America. And he doesn't miss an opportunity to act like a two-bit racial arsonist and fan the flames of hatred for his own personal, political, petty gain. Now let me be clear, that's not to say I don't think that every American who voted for Donald Trump is a racist. But I do know that every racist in America voted for Donald Trump. That's a problem. These are challenging times. Can I talk to y'all? These are challenging times. So we need a president to stop acting like a birther-in-chief. Start acting like the commander-in-chief. I'm thankful for Reverend Sharpton. We need him now more than ever. And we know that whenever we've needed Al Sharpton, he's always been there. Gun violence, Al Sharpton's been there. Racial violence, Al Sharpton's been there. Police violence, Al Sharpton's been there. Howard Beach, Al Sharpton's been there. Bensonhurst, Al Sharpton's been there. Eleanor Bumpers, Al Sharpton's been there. Abner Louima, Al Sharpton's been there. Amadou Diallo, Al Sharpton's been there. Patrick Dorismond, Al Sharpton has been there. Sean Bell, Al Sharpton has been there. Omar Edwards, Al Sharpton has been there. Shem Walker, Al Sharpton has been there. Eric Garner, Al Sharpton has been there. Whenever we've needed Al Sharpton, he's always been there. God bless you. Happy birthday. No justice, no peace.
Bad man right there. From Brooklyn, don't you forget it. Without further ado, we've been joined by a fellow Brooklynite. He's a brother. He's standing tall in the New York State Assembly. You might have seen him around. He is Assembly Member Walter Mosley. Let us receive Walter and his beautiful daughter.
I'm not gonna, they always say in Brooklyn, I might be a Hakeem stunt double, but it's always a pleasure to be associated with greatness. And I just want to applaud the Congressman for everything he's doing in Washington, D.C. on behalf of all of New York City residents, not just Brooklyn, not just Harlem, but all communities across this country. So let's give it up for Congressman Hakeem Jefferson together. He's my predecessor, someone who I look up to, although I'm taller, I look up to him. And he's someone I admire and someone I respect. And someone who also I admire, who I respect immensely, is the Reverend, is our own Al Sharpton. He's someone who I text on his birthday and I say, Rev, Brooklyn will always be proud of you for all that you've done for not only New York City residents, but for men and women all across this globe. And he's someone we admire, and it was, I just felt without robbery. It's Daddy's weekend, I had my 3-year-old and my 10-year-old with me, and I said, you know what, we're going up to Harlem. Because there's an iconic figure we need to pay homage to. There's a man who you might not ever read about in history books, but let it be known that history has been made here on 145th and Lenox. Let it be known that the history that he made, although it may not be something you're ever taught in your public schools or even in your colleges and universities in which you go on to, but let it be known that the education that you're experiencing living in this great city, in his presence, while he walks this great earth, we can never ever be replaced. So on behalf of the 57th Assembly District in Brooklyn, New York, on behalf of our constituents, the women and children I represent, I want to wish Reverend Al Sharpton and his entire family for the sacrifices that you made, for all that you have given to this country, to this world. And may God continue to bless you all. And may God continue to bless the National Action Network. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Brooklyn only produces some bad, bad men. We have another bad brother. He ain't from Brooklyn, but that's all right. We don't hold it against him. He's from the Boogie Down Bronx. He's the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. He is a preacher, man of God, and he is an assembly member of the New York State Assembly, our brother, Michael Blake.
Bible says, for I reckon that the present sufferings of this time are not worthy to be compared to the future glory about to be revealed to us. I'm grateful that we can be here at the House of Justice yet again because of the glory that comes about what comes from the house. Something happens when you are in the house. Something happens every time you get to be in the house. When you understand the word, you understand that it says that in my Father's house that there are many mansions, and if it were not so, I would not have told you. Something you understand that when you come to the House of Justice, you are told that someone will stand up for you. Someone will fight for you. Someone will have your back, and his name is Sharpton. Sharpton is someone that has opened up doors when others didn't have a chance. Sharpton is someone that gave you a chance when others didn't have a chance. See, I know I don't come from Harlem. I know I don't come from Brooklyn, but I come from the Boogie Down Bronx, where good things happen in the Bronx. And doors have been opened in the Bronx. I understand about the house because Reverend Sharpton came to our house called Calvary United Methodist Church on a Father's Day Sunday and said, I will open up doors for you in the Word. It says, I'll open up the doors of heaven for you. So I come to the village of Harlem because on this birthday celebration, we come to say, happy birthday, Reverend Sharpton. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for opening up the doors. Thank you for being that house of justice. So I know that in this house of justice, I know there are so many mansions, and it's because of you.
Assemblyman Michael Blake. Let me say, as I sat and listened to a lot of those that would honor my birthday this week, one of the things that I want all of us to do and to be very cognizant of is that birthdays only measure your time on earth. Everybody born is measured how long they're here by every year they're here. And then at the end of life, I don't care who you are, we evaluate your life by what you do, not what you had. Many of us spend our life trying to accumulate things that will mean nothing after our life is over. I say it, many of you have heard me say it over and over again, there is nothing more difficult, there is nothing more challenging for a black preacher than to preach the funeral of an irrelevant Negro. That's a hard job. They roll the body down the aisle, family sitting up on the front row crying and carrying on. And we supposed to get up and hallucinate a life for you never lived. I mean, most folks shouldn't even have a funeral. Most folks should go straight from the morgue to the cemetery. Because most folks, congressmen, haven't done nothing we can talk about. You ought to ask yourself every day, if this is my last day, what can they say about me? Your money in the bank won't mean nothing to nobody. We can't withdraw it when you're gone. Your car won't mean nothing. Your wife and your husband will change the registration and keep on trucking. Your house won't mean nothing. We'll sell that. The only thing that will matter that you were even here is what you've done for more than yourself while you was here. I look at Hakeem. We rode coming up from Brooklyn. He rode up Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. Adam ain't the only person in New York history who went to Congress. But because Adam stood up in New York and made them hire the first black bus drivers with the Harlem bus boycott, made them hire the first blacks in the utility company, because Adam went to Congress and passed education legislation, labor legislation. That's why they named the street after him. And all of the mess they threw on Adam. Adam was bad 3-4 times. Adam did this with that. Don't nobody remember that. They remember what he done. And if there's one message that I would give on my birthday week is make your life have value beyond your self-aggrandizement. I was saying to Attorney Hardy that one of the things that people don't realize and get confused about, we're going to deal with this at this Columbia University study on my work Wednesday, is that I read in the media Michael Blake, and Blake's vice chairman of the Democratic Party, by the way, as well, not only assemblyman, he's national vice chair of Democratic Party. So all of y'all don't think Democrats have been doing enough. As soon as the rally over, that's the vice chairman. I'll stand him up here and hold him. But I read in mainstream media, and it was alluded to by Hakeem, the reinvention of Al Sharpton. The fact is not a reinvention, but an evolution. Why do I say that? I started preaching when I was 4. I became an official in Breadbasket at 13. I grew up in the movement. You different at 13, then you different at 23, then you different at 40. You didn't reinvent yourself, you just grew up. When I was 13, I wore a size 7 shoe. When I got to be 20, I was wearing a 10. I didn't reinvent my foot. I mean, people just get all crazy. When my mother brought me to Reverend William Jones, the honest reason, Hakeem, is I started becoming enticed and enthused about the movement. In Brooklyn, as those that are older know, in Brooklyn, which was New York, this town was dominated by what they would call a more militant sector. Yes, that's right. Nationalists and revolutionaries. Yes. My mother and Pastor Bishop Washington said, oh Lord, we don't want him to leave the church. I was a boy preaching in the Church of God in Christ. So they brought me to Reverend Jones to keep me in the church, not necessarily keep me in the movement, but at least it was a church movement led by Dr. King and Jesse Jackson. And I grew up in Breadbasket because I was fighting for social justice with the preachers. That was considered moderate among my friends. All of my friends were members of the Panthers or members of other what was considered self-defense organizations. Now, it was hard out to be breadbasket and a preacher, and I hadn't even got to high school. I started in high school the year they did Ocean Hill, Brownsville. So when they talk about me coming from tracksuits, well, I'm 63 Tuesday, Russell Simmons 60, Spike, all of us grew up together. We all wore tracksuits. That was the dress of the day. That's what everybody wore. And only reason I didn't wear Kangos because I met James Brown, did my hair like him. I wasn't gonna mess my hair up. But that was the dress of the day. What people don't look at, give you this, Michael Blake. In the 50s and the 60s, the cultural and civil rights paradigm was Atlanta and the South. Dr. King, Dr. Lowry, Dr. Abernathy. The culture was Mahalia Jackson, Southern gospel. It shifted in the 70s and 80s to the Midwest, Motown out of Detroit, Motown Records, Jesse Jackson in Chicago. In the 80s and 90s on, it shifted to New York. Spike reinterpreted what black cinema would be. We went from Sweet Sweetback to what Spike was doing. Russell and them started rap, which went into hip hop. I became the face of activism for that era. We're contemporaries. We all grew up together. That's why I was in Spike's early movies. That's why the early rappers rap about me and all of that. Because those that were older than us in the Motown and Sweet Sweetback era, like Michael Hardy. Mike used to go see Sweetback. I wasn't old enough to get in the movie. You see him grinning up there now just thinking about Sweet Sweetback. Now, why is that important? We must think and teach our children about generation to generation. One thing I was watching when I was in Ireland last week in that award, everybody in the world celebrates the continuity of their history and respects and regards their elders, but American Negroes. We the only ones think that what new is best. We're the only ones think we got to reinvent the wheel every generation. Everybody else understands every other generation's obligation is to keep the wheel turning, not to try to reinvent a wheel. I ain't gonna talk about this ain't grandma's movement. Well, you ought not brag about it. Because if you didn't have a grandma, you wouldn't have had a mother, and if you didn't have a mother, it wouldn't have been a you. If your grandma could negotiate being part of changing the world from the back of the bus, from not being able to have an education equal to the people in her generation, not being able to make a living equal, and still build a movement that made it possible for you to go to college, the least you could do is not be ungrateful and talk about what she wasn't when she opened the doors to what you are. I remember when I was a little boy, I used to run up 138th Street to see Adam Powell, and Adam used to tell us about how he was the first black man that could get a haircut in the congressional barbershop. Adam would take the insults so Barack Obama and Hakeem could come behind him and serve. Don't ever forget where you come from. The Congress goes in session. Those that come from our community have a different burden on their shoulders than anybody else in Congress. When they walk, down that aisle, it is not like their colleagues. Because their colleagues didn't have to have people die to put them in that hall. When they walked down that aisle behind John Lewis, who was on my show in the morning, who was beaten to a pulp to give us the right to vote. No other people in the Congress had people beat just for them to have the right to vote. So we expect the least you gonna do is to stand up for the ones that took the whippings and the brutality so you wouldn't have to take it, so you could rise up. Now I heard Akeem run down a litany of the cases and issues we fought. Tell you something. One of the places I first became known in New York was we fought in Howard Beach, 86. Killed a black boy named Michael Griffith. Cousin called me and we went out there in motorcade, marched around, made that an issue, stayed on it, a lot of groups. Finally, we did put those guys in jail. You know what nobody want to talk about, Dominic Carter? Right up the road from Howard Beach, while I'm marching, was Jamaica Estates, where a guy named Donald Trump was born and raised. Donald Trump grew up in the same New York I did, 9 years older than me. Howard Beach happened, he had nothing to say. They killed Yusuf Hawkins in Bensonhurst, he had nothing to say. All that racism, Eleanor Bumpers, nothing to say, he was older than me. But when a white woman was viciously and maliciously and wrongly raped and sodomized, all of a sudden, he found his voice and bought ads in newspapers and not called for justice, but called for the death penalty on those 5 young men. And I stood up and said I did not believe they were guilty. They castigated me. They did cartoons on me. People ask me about Broadway. I believed in the Central Park 5 by myself. They'll talk about that. And them boys went to jail. One of them went to jail for 13 years. And the only reason they got out, there was no DNA when they went in, is that one of the men in jail, many years later, told his jailmate, cellmate, that he did it. And they checked the DNA and found out it was his DNA on the woman, not any of the 5. And they let them go, and they gave them a settlement years later. But when they let them go, Trump said they still was guilty. Trump said they shouldn't give them a dime. And one young man's mother came to me and said, my boy been in jail 13 years. You stood up and said there was nothing that they did wrong. Where they gonna go now? He couldn't go to Donald Trump, but he could come to the House of Justice. And we gave him a job to work here, because no one would take him after 13 years in jail for something he didn't do, and he's still here this morning, Corey Weiss. That's my birthday. Preachers wanted to build great